Hello again, Steve here to share a few words on my thoughts about starting a business, which could start out as a small business and turn into something quite grand potentially. Um, Everybody wants to have a taste of the good life, right? Which usually involves an abundance of some sort of currency, of money, ability to be free in that aspect of life. And I think that from what I've seen and from the people I've met over the years, the most effective way to do that is to be in business of some sort, because you have the freedom and the freedom and the ability, freedom to leverage your abilities, and with enough creativity, you can parlay that into some pretty serious cash flow. And from my experience, I mean, I've had some success. I've had in the past, I've had a successful small car dealership, towing and auto wrecking business for a while, as well as handyman's light construction business, and have succeeded in all of them to the degree to which I put time into them. I haven't been one of these people who tries for 5 years and then fails. Whatever I do seriously, it works out. So take that for what it is. I'm not saying that it's a great endorsement of some sort of success rate, but a little bit of experience. But I have been a bit of a business junkie to some extent at certain times of my life in terms of interest in it. Share a few thoughts. What is the best business to get into? I don't know what the best business is, really. I mean, there are certain things that somebody could relate to. If it's just money that somebody's after, I think there's probably a certain level of failure rate, because it might not be in your heart completely to keep going during the hard times and the lean times in the beginning, because it can be a lot of work, and it is a lot of work to get things going, get it off the ground. So therefore, it must be, or not must be, but it helps to be enjoyable. But that's not exclusively the point. It doesn't have to be completely enjoyable. If there's a sense that this is doing some good, it might not be enjoyable at first. A lot of the things might not be enjoyable, but it can be satisfying after a while. And if somebody can keep that in mind, then that's a good thing to have, to be either enjoyable or satisfying, because there's some sort of a deep-seated value in it. And the next thing I would say is that it would be great to be in a low-regulated field. Any kind of a business is regulated by the government goons, for sure, just because there's always been, and probably will be for quite a while, a thieving class which masquerades around as somehow honorable and keeping the public's interest at heart. But that's just bollocks, as anybody who looks into it knows. Nevertheless, if you can be in a field that's low regulated, where there's not too many unions and high taxation and all sorts of inspectors roaming around and all kinds of do-gooders coming around and bothering you, that's a good one to have. And the final one is if you can make some kind of a money press out and systemize it in a way that it can be a money press that keeps going. Money press is a term I got from a friend of mine who's got a very successful trading company, and they trade massive amounts of commodities essentially, and they just take a cut margin off of the trade. And so the huge volumes are kind of standing in the chain of the flow, right, and collecting a piece of it as it goes, and it amounts to huge money. But it seems to get, once they keep it going, keep the flow going, so it seems like an automation takes place, and he calls it a money press. Everybody wants a money press. Everybody who wants a bit of money, is nicer to press it than to go out and chase it all the time. Of course, there's chasing involved all the time too, but it's easier when the system starts to flow. And I remember the story I heard one time by this guy who gave a presentation. He talked about how there's two ways to approach this scenario, where there's a town and they have a well outside the town, and the first suggestion is, let's just get our buckets, because it's a small town, we'll each carry a bucket a day. And in time it gets too big, so they say, well, let's get the municipal works to do it, and they hire a bunch of union guys to go out and carry these buckets, and they get a yoke across their neck and so on. They're carrying all their buckets. Meanwhile, this enterprising guy, rather than carry all these buckets, he starts building a pipeline And everybody thinks he's ridiculous because while he builds that pipeline, he's not carrying any water. It's actually costing him. He's not able to sell his water. It's costing him day after day after day. And he endures all of the pestering and the chiding that he's getting because he knows that eventually his payday is going to come in. And after all of this time of investment, of time and labor, and enduring all that pestering and all the costs that he had, finally he's able to have this pipe run into the town. He's able to open up a valve, and he's able to regulate that water as fast as he can or as slow as he wants. And then all the people who are pestering him, of course, now they come and attack him and try to cut his pipeline and so on, and call him a big bad business guy and so on, even though he put all that time and effort into it and so on. But I think it's a good example of creating a money press. There's a lot of effort into it, but when things begin to flow, it can flow without a lot of work anymore. It's just fine regulation and fine systemization and just monitoring, and it begins to flow. So I think that's important in a business too, if you can somehow have that back end that keeps on going, repeat customers or something like that. So I would say that the best business is something that is least suitable, suitable so that it's satisfying or it's enjoyable, and that it has low costs perhaps of startup, and especially costs in terms of regulation from the regulating goons that want to come around and pester people and basically rip you off in the name of virtue. And finally, that it can be somehow systematized so that there can be a flow begin to happen, like a money press or a pipeline. And I think if you got all those three, you're on your way to a successful business life. So more on this later as I continue to fine-tune my systemization. Steve here again. Great chatting. Talk again soon. Bye-bye.